If everything's ready here on the dark side of the moon, play the 5 tones. I was talking to a friend of mine before coming on this trip, and he's been out here many times. And one thing he said, oh, if you're stopping, just stop here for about an hour. That's all you really need. And I'm thinking to myself, an hour? I've seen this tower since I was a little kid. 13 years old, I saw Close Encounters back in 1977. And that movie is probably in my top 10 of favorite movies of all time. So I wanted to spend a little bit more than an hour just because it left such an impression on me. It was going to be so nostalgic. I've never seen it in person. I'm well aware that the tower was around before the movie was created, and it means a lot more to the locals here and especially Native Americans. So when I book time down here, we're staying in a campground that's got no hookups. It's $20 a night. It's not too bad. It's got great views of Devil's Tower. So it has bathrooms, it has some water, and that's really about it. So we're pretty much running off of our tanks right now. And this campground is located in the park itself. Devil's Tower is just a few minutes away by drive. There's a couple hiking trails that you can get to it very easily. It's about a 1.5 mile walk to get you up to the trail that will circle it. So this campground is called the Belfouche River Campground. And another thing about Belfouche is another movie that's one of my favorites. Not in the top 10, but it's a John Wayne movie, and probably of all the John Wayne movies, it's my favorite.
This is the Double O. This is Belfouche. In between is 400 miles of the meanest country in the West.
The movie's called The Cowboys, and John Wayne has to hire a bunch of school-aged children to drive cattle to market. So this is also fictitiously set in this area. But one of the things that drove me to come here was seeing that movie when I was a young kid. So one thing I wanted to mention here is you're going to see a lot of pictures of this tower in various forms. It's very weird that you think you would take a picture of a landmark, maybe a half dozen, and you'd move on your way. But it seems like I could stay in one spot and take 10 pictures in that same exact spot at different times of the day, maybe with clouds in the way, maybe with a clear sky, maybe with the sun coming up, the sun going down. and it looks a little bit different, and it's just awe-inspiring every picture you take. So every angle that you walk around this tower, it's always there looming overhead, and it's just amazing. I just could not take enough pictures of it, whether it was with the starlit sky, the sun going down, rain in the background. I did get a few shots of the lightning in the background, but I don't know if they came out that good. So I booked 3 days to stay here instead of 1 hour, and I'm glad that I did. It worked out really, really great. I walked all the hiking trails around it, up and around the tower. I checked out different views at night with the starlit skies. It was gorgeous. I experimented a little bit with my camera. So one thing about the hiking trails here, I've been on many hiking trails, and usually when you hike a trail in a national park somewhere, they have some sort of payoff at the end. Maybe it's a scenic overlook, or maybe it's some historical reference, or maybe it's a waterfall, but usually you have some sort of payoff. Well, walking the trails here was very surprising because there was a payoff at the beginning, there was a payoff at the end, and there was a payoff in the middle. Because the whole time you can see this tower back here, and also the grassy lands, there's wildlife to look at. It was just a spectacular hike. I really enjoyed it. I did it twice. I went by myself the first time, and then I brought Karen with me the second time. I walked all the trails that you could around it. So I really took some time. I enjoyed the whole experience, and it was probably one of the nicest hikes that I've ever been on. So we've been essentially dry camping here the whole time. We've been using maybe about 25 to 28% of our battery each day. We've been running a generator sometimes in the daytime. It's been getting up to about 90 degrees. So we can handle that temperature, but with Willow with us, we're running a generator so that we can cool her down and run the air conditioner in the RV. So we're using maybe about a gallon of gas. So in the long run, $20 a night plus a gallon of gas, $25 to stay here and keep the trailer cool. The solar panels are doing just fine by themselves up on the roof to recharge the batteries. We've been going out in the morning, and by the time 1 o'clock rolls around, the batteries are almost fully charged again. We turn on the generator usually around 1, 2 o'clock just to cool the RV down if Willow's going to be staying in it. Sometimes we'll take her with us depending what we're doing for the day. Our water supply has been doing great. We put 54 gallons in there before we left. This is the 3rd day we're here now. We've only used 1/3 of our black tank, 1/3 of our gray tank, and we still have 2/3 water. I took a shower last night. Karen's probably going to take a shower tonight. We just did dishes today. So we're trying to be water conservationists, but also we're not skimping that much either. So if you're coming through this area, I highly recommend you take more than an hour to check it out. Walk some of the hiking trails. There is a trail that goes right around the base of the tower, and it's all paved. It's not too terrible when it comes to elevation gain. You could park pretty close to access it by the visitor center if you want. I chose to hike it from our campsite, which adds a couple more miles to the hike. Very pretty. It's well worth the loop. There's a lot of interpretive and informative plaques that are around the mountain. Another cool thing was seeing some of the climbers that were climbing the tower. Both mornings that I went and did the loop trail around it, there were climbers halfway up, and we spent a few minutes just watching them. We had a pretty good storm come through the second night. But every night we've been here, the clouds have usually cleared out by about 9 p.m. I've been able to experiment with my camera a little bit, taking some night shots, getting some of the stars in the background. I've gone to a couple different areas. I was really hoping that I could get the Milky Way right behind the tower itself, but this time of year just was not going to work for us. I talked to one of the rangers at the Park Service, and he recommended an area to go to take that night shot. But unfortunately, the Milky Way and the hours and the time of year just was not close enough to the tower, and as the night went on, it actually moved further away. So I'm a little disappointed that didn't work out, but maybe through the magic of editing of a photo, I could make it look like it did work out. So this is our last evening here, and then we're moving on to Little Bighorn tomorrow.
Signs for I-90 Business West. 600 feet, turn left onto the I-90 West ramp to US 14 West Billings. In 800 feet, turn right onto I-90 Business Loop.
We're headed to an RV park that is about 7 miles away from Little Bighorn. We figure we can get here early enough, get situated, go to Little Bighorn for about 2-3 hours, come back, do some chores, empty our tanks, and then we'll be moving on the next day.
Go straight up, everything's up there, straight up.
Straight? Okay.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. In addition to being a national monument, there's also a national cemetery here. Now, I would recommend about 3 hours is probably all you need to really take in this area. There's a lot to offer, a lot of monuments, a lot of gravestones. The visitor center has a lot of artifacts inside, and it's worthwhile to have a ranger take you on a brief tour of the battlefield and to hear about the accounts of Lakotas, the Cheyennes, and the Army.
Site of one of the most famous battles in American history, Battle of the Little Bighorn, named for the river that flows through the trees down at the foot of the hills here below you. The last great battle in a 400-year clash of cultures that began in colonial times. But the more immediate roots of the problem came from the
After a few hours at Little Bighorn, we return to our trailer. We're staying at the 7th Ranch RV Park, and it has full hookups, which is nice because we can empty our tanks and have everything ready to go in the morning. There's a couple laundry machines there. Karen was able to do laundry before we left. We're going to be going back on the road and heading towards Yellowstone, and we're going to be basically dry camping for about the next 6 days. In addition to our ride tomorrow, we're also going to have to stop for groceries somewhere, so we're going to be going through Cody, Wyoming, and we're hoping that we can find a Walmart or something where we could pull over, one of us can go inside, do some shopping. I've also noticed while towing the trailer that my engine's been misfiring, and I've been babying it, but it's something I'm going to have to tend to. But that's going to be our next RV excursion. I hope you enjoy these videos of our little adventure. I'll try to keep you apprised of anything that comes up, if we have any problems, if anything breaks, if we need to make repairs, etc. But for now, I appreciate everyone watching. Hope you enjoy and subscribe to these videos. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one is coming out, and keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.